Good morning. I'm Ellen Dixon. I am the Manager of Engineering Application Services in DIT Transportation, which is the part of Department of Information Technology that supports DOT. And I'm happy to be here today. I'm excited to tell you about some of the changes we're making to make things easier for folks with submittals. So let's go ahead and get started. There's been a lot of confusion. We've heard a lot of questions. Where exactly am I supposed to put stuff? Am I supposed to put it in pre-construction site? Am I supposed to put it in ProjectWise? Am I supposed to email it? What about Atlas? What about eTracks? What about SAP? There's a lot of systems involved and a lot of confusion about what people are supposed to be doing. So we have some improvements that are out now. We have some more that are coming soon, and so I'm going to hopefully help clear up some of this. Also, on the other side, project managers, particularly for the larger projects that have hundreds of submittals coming and going, have a lot of trouble keeping track of, have I got this submittal from somebody? Did somebody review it? Has it been sent back to them with feedback? And it's easy to lose track of those things. So that's another thing we're trying to do is improve the Submittal Tracker, which we have a Submittal Tracker now if anybody has used that. But it has some, I guess it's a little confusing to use and not everybody is using it. So we are making some improvements to make an easier to use way to keep track of submittals and keep track of where they are in the process that will hopefully benefit submitters, project managers, and reviewers. So everybody can keep track of where is everything in the process? What am I supposed to be doing? What's on my to-do list right now? So I'm going to jump right in. First, I'm going to describe at a high level what is the plan. And then we'll talk more specifically about what's there now and what's coming soon. So what we're going to have is that whoever's submitting something to NCDOT, when it's time to submit, they are still going to have to choose between two different places. If it is DGNs, if it is a CAD submittal, then it's going to need to go in ProjectWise. We are supposed to be using ProjectWise for projects that started since 2020. If your project is not in ProjectWise, you can talk to the project manager on the project. There is an option to move it over there. Even if it's in an old format, it's possible for us to move it into the legacy projects section of that. But if it's not, then I guess your CAD stuff still kind of comes under the non-CAD category of what I'm going to be talking about. But ideally, if it is a CAD submittal, you will put it into ProjectWise, navigate to that project, put it in the folder structure where it should go. And so the submittal itself is the PDFs of those plan sheets. So you would get your design files into ProjectWise, render your PDFs. Each firm has their own way of doing that, and gather it into a set and mark it to publish to NCDOT and Sharepoint. And those two last steps, I'm going to go through in detail. How to mark it as a set, how to get it to publish over to SharePoint automatically for you. And then the system will take care of it from there. It will make the document sets, it will assign reviewers with the PM, and you'll just eventually get a email back saying, okay, here's what the reviewer and the PMs thought about your submittal, and is it okay, or do you have to revise it, and so on. If it is a non-CAD submittal, then there's going to be an option in the pre-construction dashboard called Submitter Tasks, and this will be there in March, by the end of March, and it will lead you through how to upload your submittal, and it will put it in the right place, and it'll take care of it from there. So the submitter, basically they're going to have to decide, is it a CAD thing that's going into ProjectWise, or is it a non-CAD thing? But the system should take it from there. People say, well, what about Atlas? Aren't I supposed to put some stuff in Atlas Workbench? Atlas Workbench is a finalization, handles a sort of a finalization step. So the submittal itself and getting it put in and reviewed, and it comes back from the PM and they're like, okay, you need to make some changes, and then you go through that cycle again. All that is the submittal process I was talking about. But once it's done and it's ready to kind of finalize, then Atlas Workbench will, if it's on the list of the types of documents Atlas Workbench handles, and I have a link in my presentation somewhere to that list, then you should then put it in Atlas Workbench, which will make sure that you've double-checked things and filled out the attributes so that it can be filed properly. So that's sort of an extra step on the end. The submittal process for the project manager will have two different things they're supposed to be involved in this submittal process. After the submitter puts in their submittal, the project manager will get alerted that a submittal has shown up. And they will go into the project manager part of the dashboard, and it will show them the submittals that are in one of two different states. The first state is if it has just been submitted, then they will be prompted to assign the reviewers for that submittal. And so they will assign reviewers, and it will automatically email those reviewers with the right links, and eventually it will come back to them and they will consolidate. The other part that project managers will be prompted to do is if all the reviews have been completed, then they are prompted to consolidate that review and send the feedback to the submitter. So let's say when it first came in that they assigned a roadway design reviewer and a hydraulics reviewer, it doesn't prompt them until both those reviews are back, and then it prompts them, okay, there's something you need to do, and they will go in and see that it's ready for them to consolidate that review. They may choose to just say, yep, the comments that those reviewers made are fine, and I can pass them right on back to the submitter. Or the PM may say, the reviewer was too nitpicky. I'm really only going to have the submitter fix these 3 things. And they can make their own little document that says, here's what I really want you to fix. And they can upload that. It will prompt them through, if they want to upload something, and then they can mark it to be returned. And the system will automatically send an email back to the submitter saying, here's where you can find your review comments. Here's the consolidated response. All right. And the reviewers, when they are assigned, when a project manager assigns someone to review that particular submittal, they'll select the reviewer. The system will send that reviewer an email that says, you've been asked to do this review. Here's when it's due. Here's where you can find the files for the submittal. And here's what you need to do with the results. Right now, if you're using Submittal Tracker, then you're navigating to a document set in the review comments library. That's still where it's going to be, but it's just going to help you get there. You'll have a place in the pre-construction dashboard where you can just go and say, I'm ready to upload my review comments, or if I don't have anything to upload, if it was fine, that's fine too. And then you do have to kind of make a summary decision. As a reviewer, you have to say, what do I recommend that the PM tell the submitter? Do I recommend them to say it's reviewed with no comments, reviewed with comments, or you need to revise and resubmit? And then they have a place to put kind of their summary comment, but all the detailed comments and any marked up PDFs or whatever, they can upload and they'll be stored in the review comments document set that's for this submittal. All right. So just to summarize, once we get this all implemented, it's actually the same process that people have now if they're using the Submittal Tracker, but it is leading you through it so that you don't forget a step. So what the submitter is going to have to do is upload their submittal either into ProjectWise and flag it to publish to Sharepoint, or directly into the Precon using the Precon dashboard. And then they sit back and wait for the results to come back. What the PM has to do is they have to assign a reviewer and a due date. It'll default to 2 weeks out, but they can choose to make that longer or late or earlier, whatever they choose. They have to consolidate the reviewer feedback when it comes back, and they can they need to decide on returning this. It's time to return the summary results back to the submitter. And then reviewer has to review whatever they are assigned to do. The reviewer will get an email, but there's also 2 different places where a reviewer will be able to see what reviews are assigned to them. They'll be able to go into an individual project and look at, are there any things waiting for me here in this project? Or they'll be able to go to the top of Preconstruction Home and look across all the projects and go, do I have any review tasks waiting on me anywhere? And in all these things, you'll be shown things in the order that kind of first come, first served. So when the submittal comes in, the oldest submittal and any tasks related to it are going to be first on your list so that we keep things moving. All right. So that's kind of the high-level overview. Hopefully it's fairly straightforward. So now I'm going to go through in a little bit more detail on some of these steps that are new. So first of all, in ProjectWise, I just want to kind of reiterate that back a few years ago, I think at the end of 2019, we got a directive that came out from the chief at that time that said projects, NCDOT projects starting in January 2020 and beyond should use NCDOT's ProjectWise to store their files in. And this is the ProjectWise that we're using is a Bentley managed ProjectWise in the cloud, and it is backed up, and it doesn't mean you have to do your work there, but it means that at every submittal you have to put your work there where it belongs. The big benefit for this, or there's many benefits for this, but one of the biggest benefits for this is that our consultant partners can actually access it and can see what else is going on the project. And so if you want to see what's the latest, if you're working on roadway design, but you kind of want to see if there's anything coming along from right away, you can look and see if there's something there. You don't have to go ask your DOT connection to kind of find you something and send it to you. Whatever's the latest and greatest is out there. It's in that folder. And if you have access to the project, you have access to read all the other folders in that project. The same as with pre-construction projects in SharePoint. If you may only have write access to the areas of the project where you're expected to upload content, but you have read access to the whole project as a member of the project team. There's a section, the production section has like each division, and then within each division it has each project, mostly ordered by whatever we're calling the project, usually the TIP number. That is the same as in the pre-construction projects on SharePoint. If that we had an old project that had been underway with design for some time, and it's got this really complicated folder structure in the old project store, and project store was a mapped network area for projects that is only accessible within DOT, we can still move the project into ProjectWise, and it would go in this legacy projects area, and it would just bring its complicated folder structure with it. So that we don't have that set up to automatically publish to SharePoint because we can't map it as well, but at least you would still be able to access it. So if you are working on some project that's been underway for many years and you would like to get it moved into ProjectWise to make it more accessible, talk to the PM on the project, and the PM can just ask the CAD team and we can make that happen. And I think I already mentioned, do you have to do your work there? No, DOT at the current time does not require you to do your work inside our ProjectWise. You can do your work at your firm and then upload it at submittal times. But every submittal is expected to be in there. So if you're expected to give it to us, 3 times during the course of the project, we want to see that progress in ProjectWise. And that way other consultants working on other parts of the project will also be able to see it. So, I mentioned this already. What do I get out of this? Consultant users as well as DOT can directly access theirs and other people's project design work. I think that's the biggest value. But also, we know where stuff is and it's backed up and we can go back and find it later. Sometimes with zip files being emailed around, there was confusion about what was the latest set. Sometimes things would sit in the FTS repository for too long, and after 30 days it would disappear. There's a lot of problems with that. And plus there's a lot of time involved, both in zipping and uploading and downloading and unzipping and remembering to go put it into Project Store. Things slip through the cracks. And so we're hoping that with this system, everybody is responsible for putting things where it belongs, and we don't have all this unzipping and zipping and unzipping, and not as many opportunities for things to slip through the cracks. So ProjectWise brings a lot of value both to DOT and to the consultant community. And now we've added in these automatic connections with SharePoint. Why didn't we do it all in SharePoint? We wish we could. SharePoint does not understand reference structures. And so we really had to use a tool that is designed for use with CAD design work in order to store and be able to handle the references within the design DGNs. However, we're trying to do the best we can to connect these systems. So when a project is created in pre-construction, we'll automatically create the project and folder structure in ProjectWise as well. When you grant access, a DOT person can grant access to a consulting firm to have a certain role on the pre-construction side, like we can grant a firm the roadway design access, for example, then it will automatically grant that access for the folder structure in ProjectWise as well. And then we have this project structures list in each project in pre-construction. And if you add your structures into that list, then overnight it will create the folder structure, maybe on an hourly basis. A lot of these things have moved to an hourly basis. It will make those folders specific to those structures within ProjectWise as well. And I encourage you to use that project structures list. I think Daniel's going to talk about it more this afternoon, but it is helpful both for pre-construction and all the way into construction. So it's helpful to put that in there. You can reference it in other places. You can put all those details about the structure, its location, all that kind of stuff in one place, and then just refer to it as, Bridge 1 or whatever elsewhere in the project, and have all that reference material there for you. And then, of course, I'm going to talk in a little bit more detail about how you get a set of documents to publish from ProjectWise over to SharePoint. Okay, so you're probably thinking, I've never seen anything on my computer that says publish to SharePoint. Well, there is a one-time tool to add that option to your right-click drop-down list. And this is a tool, and by the way, at the end of this, I'm going to give you QR codes where you can get a copy of this presentation and some more information, so you don't have to take all the pictures if you don't want, but just let you know. But anyway, so there is a tool. This is also downloadable from the CAD design webpage on DOT's websites to run. Bentley wrote this tool, and it will add this little drop-down choice that's called NCDOT Export to Pre-Construction. And there's actually a clear the flag choice that it gives you as well, so that you can undo it if you mark something to export and then you're like, wait, that's not what I wanted to export. There's another choice that's like clear that flag. All right, in DOT, this should already be on your CAD machines. If it is not, send an email to CAD support. It was pushed out, so it should be there. All right, so how are you going to do CAD submittals? You connect to NCDOT ProjectWise. I'm going to assume you already know how to do this, but if you don't, there's some material at the end of this presentation that goes through it kind of step by step. that you can download the presentation later and find out. So you get into ProjectWise, you go into the project folders, and you upload your DGNs. You render your PDFs that you want to turn in. So now I have my PDFs. What do? We're going to create a document set of those PDFs that you want to submit, and we're going to mark it to be exported. Those two steps I'm going to go through now in detail. All right, I don't know if you can see this screen very well, but to create the document set, if let's say you're in the folder where your PDFs are, you would go up to the top and choose Document, and then on that long list of choices, there's one that says Set, and then you pick New. Document, Set, New. And so it'll pop up the little Create Document Set pop-up window and ask you to give a name and a description. The name that you put in is going to be what goes to SharePoint as the name of your submittal. The description is going to be what shows up in your in that folder so that you can look at it again later. So I just suggest you put the same in both, because that way you can tie it together. You know, I'm sorry, is there a question? Okay, so you create this document set, and so then that will give you an empty set. And then what you do is this next step is you highlight whatever PDFs that you want to include in your submittal and drag them into the set. You'll notice it's not really moving these files. It is getting a link to those files. So the set is a set of pointers to what files that you want to submit. It is not physically moving your files. If it's only actually going to export PDFs. If you accidentally put DGNs into that set, they're still not going to go to SharePoint. Only what's PDFs are going to be moved to SharePoint, or copied to SharePoint, I should say. So that was creating the document set. Document set new, fill in the name and the description. And you'll see it like on my bottom left here where it says the second thing under description is cross sections. That's because it created that set, which I called cross sections. And you can see that what it looks like there. It shows up in that folder, and then you drag and drop whatever you want in there. Okay. Then you highlight that document set you just created, do the right click and choose NCDOT Export to Preconstruction. And if you mark the wrong thing, you can use that clear export to clear the flag, but otherwise you just mark it. And then a program runs hourly to copy these files to SharePoint. So, you know, if your stuff is due at midnight, you can work on it up till 11 p.m. and get it in there. At any time, there is a saved search called Export to SharePoint that you can go look at to kind of see what is queued up to be exported to SharePoint. And that's pretty much it. And what happens with it? So where does it go? If you had this in the hydraulics folder, then it is going to put it in the hydraulics library in SharePoint. It's going to create a document set in SharePoint. It's going to copy over all those PDF files, and it's going to log it in the Submittal Tracker as a submittal that has been made for hydraulics. And it's going to alert the project manager that a hydraulic submittal has arrived for this project. So the system will do those things. And so the PM will come in, will assign a reviewer or two, and a due date, and those reviewers will get an email. And then at some point, the reviewers will finish their reviews, and the PM will be alerted again, and they'll consolidate the responses and send this back to the submitter, and the submitter will get it back. So whoever marked it to go to SharePoint, that is the email, that person, the email that marked it, that's who is assumed to be the submitter. So that is the person that's going to get the email back. All right. I can pause for questions, but we will have time for the questions at the end as well. Does anybody have a question about this? Okay. All right, so that was really all there is to say about the ProjectWise side. On the pre-construction project side, why are we making some changes to the process? What we're trying to do is make it easier to kind of lead you through this process. So we are going to try to provide clarity to those three different constituencies: the submitters, the reviewers, and the project managers, because each one has a different role to play. And the same person, it's not an access thing, because, you know, let's say you're working in a consulting firm, you might be a submitter on one project, a reviewer on another project, and a PM on a third project. I mean, it's not about the person, it's about what role are you playing with this particular project. And what we are trying to do is help manage the process and keep track of things so everybody can easily find out what's the status of each submittal and what am I supposed to be doing right now. And we are rolling out some usability features. We expect them to all be in pre-construction by the end of March. And we keep, there's an announcement on the front of the pre-construction projects, and it's also reflected in each project, and we will be certainly announcing when these things are available. And do I have to do this? Ask your PM. I am an IT manager. I am not a business process decision maker. So I am providing the tools that I think you will enjoy. I think they will make it easier for you, but I'm not here to make you do it. Each project manager will need to decide, are they using this process or not on their project, and communicate that to the team. All right, so just refreshing, this is what I had earlier. This is what a submitter needs to do to get something in pre-construction. They'll go to, I said they would go to the pre-construction dashboard and pick submitter tasks. So I'm going to show you some concept design of what we think this is going to look like. So we think when you come into the dashboard, you'll see a button that says Submittal Process, and beneath that there'll be submitter tasks, project manager tasks, and reviewer tasks. And so I'm going to go through all of those now, and you'll see that these other features are also there now. Some of them are relatively new. Avoidance and minimization just came out in the past week or so. Look at the dashboard every now and then. New features do show up. All right, select submitter tasks. And then by default, if you're a submitter, when you come in, you'll see a list of active submittals that you have already made. And by active, I mean they have not yet finished that whole route from the reviewer, come back and been returned. After they've done the whole cycle, they're marked as completed, and so they're not going to show up. But you can see what active ones I've got sitting in here. And you'll be able to see what you called that submittal and what phase they're in, when the reviews are due, and those links to where the submittal information is. There's link to where the review content is, and a list of who the reviewers are and who it was submitted by. So when you come in, you'll see the ones you've already put in, and if you have a new submittal you want to do, you'll press the button New Submittal. And then that will bring you to a page that leads you through what you need to do. You need to pick the primary discipline of the submittal, and that is going to dictate where the submittal is physically stored in the pre-construction project. So if this submittal may involve roadway design and hydro and right-of-way or whatever, but it's primarily a roadway design submittal, you would pick roadway design. If you think other disciplines are involved, and this is kind of a hint to the project manager of who needs to be involved in reviewing this, you can list those other disciplines, choose those other disciplines as well. And then you have your description, which is going to be the name that's going to be put on the document set. So it needs to be as meaningful that people will be able to glance through those and see which submittal they're looking for. And then the system will automatically assign a submittal number based on the primary discipline that you picked. And this is just a default. If the PM wants to do something different, they can do that. This is just so that you don't have to come up with one. It'll just use that discipline, a code representing that discipline, and the next sequential number. If this is a design build project, submittal numbers will have been pre-assigned, and you will just override this submittal number with whatever your assigned submittal is for that design build submittal. But you know, if you don't care, just take the default. It's just a way to keep track of them and be able to refer to them. If you have any notes you want to add in, you can do that. Then you click on upload submittal files. You upload whatever it is you want to upload, and it will create that document set in that library and put these files in there for you. And then you save. If you create and you hit save and you forget to upload, I think it'll pop up a little thing saying you really have to upload something for a submittal. Then you'll come back here and your submittal will be here. If you were asked to revise and resubmit a previous submittal that has made it all the way through the process, you can check on that include completed submittals, and it'll include those, and there'll be some kind of icon. It may be a wrench, maybe something else by the time this comes out, but there'll be some kind of icon that says, I need to do a resubmit for this particular submittal. And that way it'll take that submittal number and attach like R1 or something on the end of it so that you can kind of connect the dots as to what this was a revision for. Also, if you want to see other people's submittals besides your own that are in process, you can check on that include all active submittals, and it'll list them all for you. It's just different views of that list. I want to see it defaults to just your own, but if you want to see everything else that's going on in there, you can, or the completed ones. Okay. And all right, so one thing that the PMs will have to do, that business of being alerted when something happens, they have to set up that alert one time for each project. So the PM, well, the first bullet I'll tell you about in just a second. Let me do the second one first. Set an alert on the PM view in the Submittal Tracker, which is a list in each project. And here's the steps to do that. You'll go into the Submittal Tracker. You'll choose from the top ribbon list, alert me, set alert on this list. And then since we really don't want to be alerted every time anything changes, if you're a PM, you really only want to hear about it when it's time for you to take an action. So there is a PM view. So you'll change the setting that says, send me an alert when, and there's a different option that says someone changes an item that appears in the following view, and you choose the PM view. It comes into the PM view when it's time to assign reviewers or when it's time to send the results back. If it's out for if it's in a state of perform review or it's completed, it's not in the PM view because it's not time for a PM action. So if you're a PM, you want to hear about it when you need to take an action. And so that's what you need to set the alert on. My pre-con projects, that first bullet up there, if you are, and this is not just for PMs, but especially for PMs, if you are involved with a set of projects and you're tired of kind of navigating around to find all your projects, you can kind of set your favorite list of projects, and that's that My Pre-Con Projects. You go there's a link from the homepage of Preconstruction. You identify the project you're working on, and then that you can actually just put a favorite on that page, and it'll be your list of the projects you're working on. You can add them or delete them at any time. But there's some features that are going to take advantage of this. So the Preconstruction dashboard, if you have 10 different projects in My Pre-Con Projects, it'll let you quickly navigate between those instead of having to go to the division and scan down the 300 or however many projects that are in that division. you'll be able to just quickly navigate between those projects that you care about. And if you quit working on a project, you can remove it from My Precon Projects and you can add a new one at any time. We store that information by individual. All right, so back to reminding you what I put up before about the project manager and this submittal process. They have two main times that they're involved. One is assigning reviewers, and one is consolidating the review results to send back to the submitter. So they're going to come in and pick into the pre-construction dashboard of the project and choose project manager tasks. And what they'll see is a list of those submittals that are waiting on a PM action. That's the default list that they're going to see. So you can see in this particular one, they have two that are waiting for them to return the results, and then they have one that's brand new that needs to be assigned a reviewer. And they're shown in the order they were originally submitted. So we're trying to kind of keep that first in, first out. Let's deal with the oldest one first. The icons that you see may be different icons by the time this actually rolls out, because we have to go with whatever icons are available in the different tools, but the functions will be there. So the functions you can see in the list across the top. There's a function to assign reviewers. There's a function, if you've assigned several reviewers and then you find out somebody's out sick or they're never going to do it or whatever, or you accidentally assigned the whole department as a reviewer and then you realize they're not all going to ever do it. There's a lot of reasons this might happen. You can advance it. You can skip any remaining reviews. I've got enough reviews. Let me just move on. So there's an advance choice. That's not here. It's on the review page. I'll show you in a minute. You can return results to the submitter. That opens up a dialog for you to do that. Or you can cancel it. Maybe something changed with the project and we're not going to do this submittal anymore and we're just going to cancel it. So there are there's different options you can do. Again, the default view is only showing you those things that you as a project manager need to take action on. But if you want to see all the active submittals that are going out there right now, you can do that. Like if you want to see which ones are in review state and are they moving along as they should, you can check that. Or you can look at completed ones. So if you chose include all the active ones, you can see the ones that are out for review. Well, these top two on the list, their due date is red to indicate they are past due. So as a project manager, you probably will periodically want to look at all the active ones to kind of just make sure that the reviews are moving through in a timely manner. And so I can say, oh, well, this first one, it was supposed to be reviewed by the 8th. It's overdue. And I can click on review status and go look at the specifics of who was assigned that review, which reviewers have completed it, and which ones have not. There will be, I don't think I have a picture of that, but there'll be an option to send a reminder email, or you can just decide to skip the rest of the reviews and move it on to the next phase. Again, you can assign additional reviewers, you can or remove, you can basically edit the reviewers. You can add new reviewers and remove old ones. You can look at the details of where it is. You can go to where it says submittal and review. Those are links to where the information is stored. So the submittal will be a link to the actual document set that has the submittal in it, and the review is the corresponding review comments document set. So hopefully this will make it easier. We're trying, anybody can go down any of the paths, but we're trying to help you with, if you know what your role is on this, let's just present you with the information you need to see so you don't have to sort through everybody else's stuff. All right. Reviewer tasks. So if you're a reviewer, you will be able to, if you've received an email that said, hey, you've been assigned a review on R5678, you can follow the directions in the email, which will give you a link straight to the review document set and to the submittal. But if you've misplaced your email or you just want to make sure you don't have any more assignments, you can come here to that project and choose Reviewer Tasks. And if I can get it to go forward. There we go. Guess I had it in the wrong order, just to remind you what the reviewers are supposed to do. Okay, so reviewer tasks, they will see reviews that are waiting on them to do. So if you're a reviewer, you will see, you come into this project, you'll see these are the reviews that are waiting on me. If you went to the home page of pre-construction and said my submittal reviews, you can see a list like this, but for all the projects that I think we might. Right now you have to do it one division at a time because it just takes too long to search the whole, all the projects everywhere. But if you have My Submittal projects, we may be able to shorten that time and just do it the ones in your My Submittal projects. But anyway, you'll see your link of these are the reviews that are waiting on me to do. Again, they'll be in the order of oldest first. And you can click on the submittal, go read the submittal, mark it up, do your QA, QC checklist and everything, and upload it into the review stuff as a result. So if you complete the review, which if you click on the submittal number, we may make it more clear, but basically if you're ready to complete that review, you click on that submittal, and it'll take you to a complete review page where you can choose what is your response recommendation back to the PM. I recommend that this be, that we say it's reviewed with no comments, reviewed with comments, or revise and resubmit. You can make a short summary comment. Let's say I've uploaded or I have several marked up plan sheets I want to upload. I'd upload those files, but I want to summarize, there's a problem with blah, blah, blah. You could just write that kind of quick summary note there so the PM kind of knows what to look for. And this is going back to the PM. And you upload if you have a review comment file, you upload it. If you don't have to. It will probably give you a warning and say, did you mean to exit without uploading? And if you say, yes, I did, then it'll say, okay, it's fine. Just want to make sure you don't accidentally leave without uploading your comments. So one last thing I want to tell you about, that was it for all the screens I was going to show you. The team is working on these now, and we'll be testing them out with a few people, some PMs that we are working with to get feedback and just making sure everything is in good shape. And then we expect this to be rolling into pre-construction projects by the end of the first quarter. And I do want to recommend to all of you that you set an alert on the pre-construction announcements, which is on the home page of pre-construction, because that is where we tell you, hey, this new feature is out there. We're offering a webinar next week, or there's a bug and here's how you get around it. We don't put, there's not a lot of announcements that go out, but the ones that are there, I think you want to see. So here's how you do that. You go to pre-construction announcements on the home page of pre-construction. You see where the title is. You see that in individual projects, but that one doesn't really link to the list. You have to go to the home page of pre-construction, click on where it says pre-con announcements, and that'll open up the list of where the announcements are. And then you'll go to the top of that page where it says list and go over to where it says alert me and click on set alert on this list and then press OK. Because the defaults are anytime there's a alert, anything added here or changed, send me an email, and that's what you want. So it's pretty straightforward, but I highly recommend you do that because that is our primary way to communicate to you when we have any changes in the pre-construction projects. Okay, so I'm going to leave it on this page so you can see we are going to have a virtual Q&A session next week so that if you have questions about the submittal process or anything else in pre-construction, that you can ask them. And we have a handout at a table in wherever it is the tables are here that also has these QR codes on them that you can pick up. And a copy of this presentation, which has all the slides you have here and some notes that have some of the things I've said, is also available there. So that's it. So I'm ready for questions. Yep. He's got a question already.
Hey, Ellen.
Hey, Larry.
When it comes to the whole process, as you know, people come and go in organizations. So both in the DOT and our partner firms working on these projects. So when it comes to the roles that are assigned to individuals in this process, whether it's a project manager or a reviewer or a submitter, those names are going to change in the process. Do you have a process set up in your workflow to handle those name changes when those roles actually change?
We're not defining, we're not keeping a list of who's supposed to be in what role here. But if, let's say, you were a submitter and now you've been assigned to be the PM, then if you're still finishing up a couple of your submittals, you would go into the submittal tasks to look at those. And you could also go look at the PM tasks as the things that you're doing as a PM. So we're not preventing anybody from going down those paths. It's just trying to give you a view that helps you based on what role you're playing at the time. So if you're kind of in transition between roles or whatever, you can do that. If people have left the project, there might be something gets stuck in, like, I guess a reviewer could be assigned and now they've been moved off the project. Then if the PM doesn't realize that, they would eventually see that review never did get done and is overdue, and they'll find out, oh, that person's gone. Then they can open it up, they can remove that reviewer, they can assign a new reviewer if they choose. So I think it'll be okay. I think, because anybody can look at these different pages. You don't have to be the PM to look at the PM view if you don't want, Okay.
Hey, Helen. Thank you for the presentation. I do use Submittal Tracker, the present version, quite a bit. So does the submitter task replace the existing system?
The question is, does this new Submittal Tracker replace the existing one? It is. We're still going to be using the exact same Submittal Tracker behind the scenes. All we're doing is adding kind of web pages in front of it to make it easier for people to navigate to use it. There's several groups that are using Submittal Tracker now, and I think it's just maybe a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. It's not that it doesn't work, but people forget, particularly I think it's easy for reviewers to put their review comments into the review comments library, but forget that they need to go back to the Submittal Tracker and mark it and say what their summary was. So now we're trying to just make it more obvious, because it's not going to go off of your review task list until you finish everything you need to finish. So really what we're mainly doing here is adding some web pages in front of what we had before to make it easier.
Okay.
So it shouldn't impact any that you already have in flight, and it shouldn't, it shouldn't change anything. Oop, didn't mean to go back. Let me go back a page. There we go.
So I have one more question. At present, the PEFs are uploading their submittals to pre-construction under their particular discipline. And then they set up the submittal tracker with that particular number, like RD001, and they assign certain reviewers, and then the PM takes over and adds more reviewers or adds more different disciplines, and then sets the review process in motion. But based on one of your slides, it looks like the uploads will be made through submitter task. Is that correct?
Yes. So you're right. It's the web page is as part of it, and it actually is doing more of the steps for you. So right now, if people are using this, they are creating the document set themselves. They are going and putting an entry in the Submittal Tracker themselves. So now, whether you come in through ProjectWise or whether you come in through the web page, the system will create that document set for you. And if you upload, it'll put your files there. It will also create the entry in the Submittal Tracker for you. So it is doing some of those steps for you.
And the same holds good for the reviewer, right? When the reviewer finishes their review, they used to upload the document to the review doc set, but now they'll go through the submitted task.
Right. Now they'll go through the reviewer tasks choice to upload it, and it will put it in the same place. So it'll put it in the review comments library in that document set, which is where they would have put it manually themselves. But it also will prompt them for the information that needs to be updated in the Submittal Tracker about like what was your summary comment and so on. So it's trying to just consolidate it, make it easier to remember, easier to do.
Okay. And then will you be adding a link for the standard submittal numbers? Because usually we have to there's a reference document that's been circulated around that has the nomenclature that we use for each discipline, like signals would be SG or SD or RD. Does the system prompt you now to use the correct discipline and the submittal number?
It will, if you choose the primary discipline, it will generate a number using what is supposed to be a standard list of codes that we got from PMU. So, if it changes, they'll tell us. But yes, like SG or SI or RD and so on, they have the different two-letter codes for the different disciplines that they want us to use for the default submittal number.
Okay, and then I have one last question about ProjectWise. We've been requested by some of the technical units to have a sandbox folder where they can make copies of the CAD submittals, so they can open it and measure things or edit, check on things without changing the date on the actual upload within ProjectWise. Is that something that we have to request the IT for, or?
So I'm not as much of an expert on ProjectWise. So you want to have a way to open something up and measure things without changing the date on the file?
Yeah, but being able to edit it and not be read-only. Make a copy of it within ProjectWise for the technical unit to actually complete their reviews, like quantities, measurements, and things like that.
I don't know the answer. Let me get you to email that to CAD support instead, because I'm not really sure that I can tell you what the answer is on that.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ellen.
Sorry.
Question I have is about the submittal. So as a consultant, when I submit something, for example, roadway plans. So when I mark off on a roadway as my submittal, however, you said there is other units, they might have to review the projects. Who decides that? As a submitter, I decide that, or is the project manager's responsibility that who will be involved in reviewing plans?
The project manager is normally the person that assigns the reviewers, with the exception for design build. If there is, what we have now, and we can talk about whether there needs to be anything else, but what we have now is you indicate what the primary discipline is of the submittal, and if you know that you're going to need reviewers from other disciplines, you can indicate those disciplines are involved. I can't remember if there's a notes or comments section, but we could probably add something like that on that page to allow you, if you want to say, hey, please make sure so-and-so is one of the reviewers, blah, blah, blah. We could maybe add kind of a notes to the submittal page so that you can have any kind of feed input to the PM, but the PM normally is the one that's going to assign the reviewers. Does that address it? Okay.
With the increase in GSC, will PEFs be able to be assigned as a reviewer in the system, or will it have to go to, I guess, the PM and then out that way?
From an IT perspective, anybody could be assigned. The business, NCDOT business, has to decide who they're willing to assign. I don't know what their rules are about that.
Okay. And then kind of hitting on her comment was with CAD files in a submittal, we've got the workflow for PDF submittals and creating the document set on ProjectWise. Is there a certain pathway that y'all are looking into of documenting timeframes or some submittal points for the design files separate than in the project folder or the project kind of area? Or is there going to be a separate area of here's the design files at this stage that correspond with the PDF submittals?
I don't know. Jeff, do you know, I don't know if Roger's still here, to know, is there a requirement to keep like that point in time set of DGNs? Do you know? She says yes.
But yes is the short answer. Yes.
So that would be something that if we need to provide instructions on how to do that, I know there's sort of a way to lock them in place, but I don't it's really out of my bailiwick here. So we can make sure there's some instructions on that. When we put out instructions on how to do the ProjectWise piece, we'll try to find out what the instructions are on that.
Thank you. Hello, I'm a project manager out of 14, and just in order to go full circle on these Submittal Tracker reviews that are being done, to me it would be very helpful if we have, obviously the PEF will upload the documents to the submittal site, and then there's a section that also uploads the review comments. Unless it's the final submittal, typically there's always going to be review comments and they always need to be addressed. So therefore, it would also be helpful if there's another column that has a location to upload the response to the comments from the review. And so that's what I'm looking for. I have spoke to Brian O. I'm going to mispronounce his last name if I try to spell it or try to
Oliphant,
say it.
yeah.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, that would just be extremely helpful. So it's more of a comment versus a question.
Okay, so that would be something for the submitter to be able to do. Okay.
The designer, the PEF needs to be able to submit.
Right. The person who originally submitted the submittal,
Correct.
they need a place to be able to upload their response to the review comments. And would that would go in the original submittal document set?
That'd be along the same row, like in the Submittal Tracker.
Mm-hmm.
It'd just be the third column over, essentially, after the review doc set. It'd be response to comments.
Well, I mean, does it need to have its own separate document set, or would you?
Yes.
It needs a separate document set.
Unless there's a way you can go in and put it in the review comments section.
We can put it wherever.
Yes, in my opinion, and it's only an opinion in this case, it just needs to be somewhere in it. In my opinion, is a third column off to the right.
All right. Well, I will. I have this PM group that I work with to kind of get a group opinion on where stuff should go, and I'll ask them where that we want to put that. But yeah, as long as it's somewhere. Okay. Thanks. Thanks. What's your name? Okay. Thanks.
Great. Well, with that said, we're at time. I want to thank everyone for their participation in this session. Let's give a round of applause for Ellen today. Thank you. And as a reminder, there are PDH forms as you walk out the door. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you.